let's just say you're on there. They kind of move you up onto the pedestal, and then your arms give and you fall to the floor, face down. Do you get up? Do you play dead? You just deliver your lines?
I think I would. I think my instinct would be to I would get back up on that cross each time. I would get back up on that cross because that's what Jesus would have done.
And when you fall off the cross, you got to get back on immediately.
Get back up
Can't
immediately.
be afraid of the cross.
No.
Also approach the cross from behind, slowly. Don't startle it.
Don't startle it.
Dearly beloved, welcome to the Unblessed Podcast, where we inquire and exposit the mysteries of that ancient text, that good book itself, the Holy Bible. We are not theologians nor historians. We are but armchair philosophers who spent years in seminary or on a church staff and have since departed to make our own way. We invite you now to read, think, and laugh with us as we dive deep into the denominational doctrines of the divine in the Unblessed Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Unblessed Podcast. My name is Evan.
And I'm Scott.
And we are two ex-virtual churchual goers. Scott, did you ever go to virtual church?
Virtual churchuals?
Virtual churchuals?
I don't think I've ever willingly attended a virtual church service. Well, that I wasn't actively making fun of, but
fair enough.
In a real way, I'm trying to think if I ever just tuned in like, gosh, you know what? It never seemed appealing to me. I thought if I'm not going to make it to church, I'm not going to.
Might as well
why would I
sin.
log on? Might as well just sin.
Might as well just
stay in bed and sin.
Might as well just go out and murder.
Yeah, not much. How about you? Any?
I every now and then would I would look at, if I didn't make it up to church when I was in college, I would either look at the Mars Hill Church.
Which flavor, Marcel?
Mark Driscoll.
Barbecue flavor.
Yeah. Barbecue manhood flavored. And then, or more predominantly, the Village Church.
Excellent
Chandler.
choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
French vanilla.
Yeah, French vanilla.
Wow. Yeah, I guess, does like church podcasts count? Because I remember way back in the day,
No.
when podcasts were first starting, I would listen. It wouldn't be live though, but I would I was obsessed with John Piper for a bit.
Yeah. I listened to a shit ton of Matt Chandler, Tony Merida. I tried listening to. I listened to Timothy Keller, but he can put you to sleep.
I did Tim Keller, but
he just has a very soft voice, and God wants you to feel this way. He wants you.
And
he really
for effect. Pray.
When we think about His grace, we have to really consider it.
Consider the thoughts.
Consider. Just think about what's in 1 Peter.
Yeah, I think I started with like John Piper, and then it got more loosey-goosey as I was listening to more podcasts. Like, because I remember the last church podcast I listened to was the other Mars Hill podcast, Mr. California himself. But live services, I have just never found appealing. I don't really. To me,
I tried it very intermittently, and I was disappointed each time.
It's like a virtual concert. Like, I wouldn't want to go to like a virtual concert. That just doesn't make, like, you go for the experience, to be there.
But that's what the liberals knew in 2020, and that's why they were trying to shut down everybody's right to worship. As they said, they're not going to want to worship from home. And so then we'll be able to make them all atheists and gay.
That's right. That's exactly what happened. Thanks, Joe Biden. Well,
yeah,
we know he was pulling the strings before he was even president.
Have I seen that video where it's like these two rednecks? This one guy told me these two rednecks, and it's like, well, liberals are gonna try and make us gay. It's like, well, same-sex marriage being legalized doesn't mean you have to marry a gay person. He's like, too late. Done married my buddy Zeke.
Yeah, virtual service I know it kind of came quickly with COVID, post-COVID years. I feel like every church was scrambling to get, like their shit together. I know my church I grew up at in Indianapolis, I know they didn't really have anything in place. I know this from like proximity from my family still going there, but I think they spent like $20,000 to $25,000 on like live church gear setup stuff, like having monitors and like a live stream camera that could, and like audio equipment and visual stuff, all this stuff. I'm almost positive it was like over the 20,000. And this is like a small, I wouldn't say smaller church, but maybe like 300 people go there now. I have no idea, but that's what's wild to me is that churches of that caliber could spend that much money on live stream. Just think about like the big churches. Just imagine those budgets. I can't. It makes me sick. I'm gonna puke on the podcast.
Welcome to North Baptist.
Oh my god!
Explosion in the background. Hugh Jackman walks out.
It's too much. For the amount of money churches spend on live streaming their church services, what's like the actual poll? Like how many people are really coming to church and getting saved? Via
Craig
Live?
Rochelle did an exclusively virtual church, didn't he?
Who?
Craig Rochelle.
I have no idea who. Craig
No,
Rochelle.
Craig.
Kroger Shell.
Craig Shell.
Craig
This is great content.
Caramel. Yeah. Fantastic podcast.
I was just struggling over a name.
Jeez.
Yeah. What was it we were going to... Oh, yeah, Easter. So Palm Sunday just happened.
We've had a week
Easter's
off, everybody.
coming
We're
up.
just kind of getting, putting some gas in the tank.
Yeah, we're doing okay. Palm Sunday just happened. If you don't know what Palm Sunday is, don't worry. None of us do.
No one really knows the origins.
It's supposed to be when Jesus walked into Jerusalem on a donkey, as it is written, and they showed palms to welcome the Messiah into Jerusalem.
Just kind of showed them. Just like had a basket full of them. Hey, we got these.
Hey, you like these palm leaves?
Yeah, those are great.
One thing I think about when it comes time for Easter, what Easter means to me is a buddy of mine in college, his youth group, it was back when Twitter was just like starting out. They would live tweet their Easter play because something bananas always happened. Like something always went wrong, whatever. And one time there was supposed to be there's always that angel who's supposed to stand over the tomb and then be like, and here is Jesus, yada, yada, yada. This one kid gets up there and he's doing the angel bit. And instead of like arms outstretched, very, angelic or whatever, he just does like a drop mic motion. And then the tomb rolls away and the person who plays Jesus walked out.
Yeah, Jesus, he's down here.
Yeah, he's here. Another story that's a favorite of mine, makes the rounds on social media, is they put Jesus up on a cross. And then the cross broke. And so Jesus is just kind of standing there. And one of the Roman guards says to the other one, "You get away with it this time, Jesus."
What do you do? I saw some other video recently of that. Like someone fell off the cross, like they were leaning it up, and Jesus kind of slid
it's almost
down
like you got to be nailed to it in order to stay up there.
What do you do though? Like, Evan, you're a performer. You're a thespian. If you're Jesus Christ in that role and you fall off the cross, what's your next move?
I tell you, it doesn't matter from Jesus Christ. It matters it's the shitty actors playing the Roman guards, because, and I'm coming after you right now. You're out there. You're trying to make a living. I find that you're a Roman guard for a shitty ass Easter play.
You can make a living off that?
I'm not signing you for shit. But what I would do as a thespian is I would start nailing Jesus to the cross again.
What do you say though? Do you just say like, "Get over here. Hey, get over here. Stop that."
I mean, yeah, I in all honesty, I would probably be as brutal as possible. I'd be like, all right, yeah, nope, we got it. Jesus has to go on the cross, so let's nail you back up there.
I think I would go for more like a Laurel and Hardy kind of impression, just kind of more like a bumbling soldier, and add a little bit of comedic effect to the whole. We need a
comedic effect for the death of our Lord and Savior.
Yeah, it's a real gruesome scene. I think the crowd could use a little comedy to get us through the whole play,
No, everyone needs to be sad. Sad about their sin that put Jesus up on that cross.
I want to know what you would do as Jesus, though. I really do. I really sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, want to know what you would do if you fell off the cross, Evan.
I think I would try and keep like the cross up. Like, because usually you're tied to it in some way, or you're like, there's some way to do it.
Let's just say you're on there. They kind of move you up onto the pedestal, and then your arms give, and you fall to the floor, face down. Do you get up? Do you play dead? You just deliver your lines?
I think I would. I think my instinct would be to I would get back up on that cross each time. Or get back up on that cross, because that's what Jesus would have done.
When you fall off the cross, you got to get back on immediately.
Get back up.
Can't be afraid of the cross.
No.
Also, approach the cross from behind slowly. Don't startle it. If it doesn't have blinders on, you can't approach it from the front.
Offer it some food if you've got any.
Give it the back of your hand so the cross can smell you. Get to know you first.
Know you first. If it starts humping your legs, just let it ride.
They say that you're hung like a cross for a reason, and the crosses are hung like that. So.
Exactly. Well, today we're going to be talking about IrRIZZistible Grace.
Ooh. More like IrRIZZistible Grace, the way you said it.
I mean, this is like IrRIZZistible Grace is God's rizz in this and all this.
God is the rizz king, and we are just his princes. Yeah,
that's what was nailed to the cross was King of Rizz.
He is risen indeed.
Oh my God, that's an even better joke, and I hate it.
Let's talk about it. IrRIZZistible Grace.
Yeah. So we did total depravity, which is everything sucks, so we can't get to heaven. Unconditional election is nobody has a choice on whether or not they're saved. Limited atonement is God only died for the people that he saved. IrRIZZistible grace is that IrRIZZistible grace is kind of the limited atonement and unconditional election from the human perspective.
Yeah.
So when you are when you are being saved, when you're being presented with, and in that moment you're being saved, and this is like the moment of salvation for you, there's not a thing in the world you wouldn't do to be saved. You would not turn away from God, because God's grace is powerful enough for him to claim his own regardless.
He's using the voice on us.
Essentially, yeah.
That's where this Dune is based off, or the Bible's based off Dune, really.
Bible's based off of Dune, Frank Herbert's work.
Yeah, that's a perfect summary. It's kind of from the human point of view, and it it's a way of answering the question of if God is decreeing it, then it has to happen. So in a sense of, if God wants someone to be saved, then they must be saved in this.
They must be saved
theology.
And I always took it as it was when I was a Christian. There was nothing more desirable.
Yeah.
Nothing more desirable in that moment than God's grace. He opens himself up to you, and as a human, that is the thing that you want more than anything else. And so you will make the choice to be saved. You're basically being like coerced into being a Christian in a weird way.
Yeah.
But yeah.
There's some verses that I think it's in John 6. Yeah, John 6:37 says, "All that the Father gives me will come to me, and whoever comes to me, I will never cast out." And that's one verse they allude to of where essentially, God's already picked his people, and therefore the people that he has picked, they will come towards him and be saved. I guess with this one, a lot of Tulip, the more we talk about it, the more it's just about trying to explain that God only chose a portion of the world to be saved, and that's it. I feel like as we've been doing this whole segment for the last few weeks, I mean, what's your take so far on Tulip? I feel like it's kind of changed in perspective for me, but
I 100% believe it now.
You're a Calvinist. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Calvinist. I'm full-on Calvinist now.
Yep.
No,
it all makes sense.
I think you're like, that's the core concept of Calvinism is predestination.
Yeah.
And the level of predestination of God chooses who he's going to save. It's not necessarily a like, no. It's not like he's like, no, well, I know they're going to pick me. It is like, God's like, nope, Evan and Scott, for sure. I picked them. And it is, outlining those different points. And it's like, okay, well, why would you need salvation in the first place? Total depravity. Why would you need, how does he do it? Unconditional election, because everybody is shit. You can't make, you don't even have enough holiness within you to make that choice. Limited atonement. Well, God's only going to die. Like, there's no sense in Jesus dying for everybody. Jesus only died for those that God saved. IrRIZZistible Grace is the human perspective of all of it, where it is God opening himself up to you and you not having the ability to resist being saved by him.
What is your understanding of IrRIZZistible Grace?
Checkmate, atheists.
What's your understanding of people that struggle with doubt or back and forth with God, but there's irresistible grace? Like, have you encountered that question when reading up on Tulip in your Christian days?
I think that gets covered by P.
Yeah. I guess as far as like when you're evangelizing, like, and people are coming to the Lord, it seems like some people can take longer to get there than others.
Yeah. Okay. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Not like once they've already been saved, more like, you're working on your Uncle Joe and he's taking time to come to church.
Yep. Yeah. I think like the answer to that would have been grace manifests itself in different ways to different people.
Ooh, go off, Pastor.
Yeah. So, like some people have that road to Emmaus, conversion, whatever. Other people get saved when they're 3. They, profess that Jesus is Lord and not indoctrinated.
I'm sorry I didn't eat all my Cheerios.
Sorry I didn't eat all my Cheerios. I'm sorry I'm a dirty sinner.
You need to kill your son because I didn't eat all my Cheerios.
Yep. I'm sorry that you did all that for me. But then, some people have, different experiences later in life. I think one that I think about a lot is, or one that I think about when it comes to this question, is Lee Strobel. His salvation story is famously just, it's not necessarily like a moment of salvation. It is him investigating the crucifixion and the resurrection.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And he just writes that he just, kneels down, says a prayer, and he's like, I didn't feel anything different. I just started living my life. The rest of the night. And honestly, I found that more grounding than anything, because some people would be like, oh man, Jesus, it was like a display. It was like the best musical I've ever seen. It felt like it. I was at like this, that, like I just had like this big, huge experience.
Isn't that the truth though? Like, I feel like,
I think Lee Strobel, for all of his problems as a person, like that was such a like very humane.
He was great in God's Not Dead too, by the way. Fantastic.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, loved him.
But stuff like that reminds me of Khaled Hosseini, who wrote Kite Runner. In that book, he talks about forgiveness, and it's just like forgiveness.
You're reading books. Case for Christ, Kite Runner, Bible. Yeah. Jeez.
There's a whole shit ton of books over here to my left. So if you want to know about any book, ask me. I've read
any book ever. Evan's read it.
Pop off. I've read the Bible a billion times.
He's readed it before.
I've read the Bible so many of the times. But Khaled Hosseini talks about forgiveness, and he's just like, it's not some big act.
Yeah. And
he describes it as when bitterness in your heart just packs up its things and leaves.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. Or more to the point, he says, you've noticed that bitterness has taken up its stuff and left.
Yeah.
That's kind of where...
Yeah, it's like one day you just realize that's not there. Yeah.
Yeah, forgiveness is something that you just realize you've actually done for a person at some point. Like you may have forgiven them before you've actually realized that you have. Which
that's
I think
really
is
interesting. I'm glad you brought that up, because, to me, it's sad to think that people can't be inspired by other works outside the Bible. Like that's how it was for me growing up. I think about that a lot now, how, these are all just human questions and essentially just answers to big questions we have. Like, are we alone? Or like, is there morality? Are people good? Like all these big questions everybody has. And, Bible has, and we talked about this in earlier episodes, but as much as we make fun of and jeer at the Bible, it has some very honest takes on humanity, and there's lots of great verses that can give you hope and can inspire you
and great
to live
stories
better.
as well.
And great stories. Yeah, like it's really not by itself, I wouldn't say it's problematic. It's just how people apply it that makes it a problem. I mean, it's like any work. It's like, you could read any Greek literature and you shouldn't just be like, my kids should read this today and they should live by every word that this says. Like, that would be stupid, because it's...
Oh, we go to First Iliad down the street.
It's like, no, like, but you feel free to cherry pick, like if it's the same thing. It's like Kite Runner. Like, I remember we read that in high school. I can't remember half of it, but it's like, I remember some great quotes from that book that were like, oh, that's a great insight to just the human experience. What a fascinating take.
Well, and even like Paul, I don't remember if it's Socrates or not, but he quotes a philosopher like that.
Oh yeah.
In the Acropolis or whatever.
Yeah,
it's not the Acropolis; it's something else. No. But he says you talk about know thyself. All right. So.
Yeah.
Who are you?
I think I have to look it up, but there are a couple verses that are either allude to or even are using, like poems and verses from other works, which is a very interesting theological question of if the Bible takes elements from other man-made works, then couldn't those same messages from man-made works be inspired in themselves? I can't quite remember. It's one of Paul's letters, he,
I think First Clement is one. The first epistle of Clement, he references that a lot. Not a lot, but like I think it's like once or twice. But it's not in our Bible.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
it's
there's.
like, okay,
I'm
why is
sure
this not being referenced?
Yeah, and you'd be a fool to think that the writers of the Bible were living in a bubble and didn't have any influence from other works. Whether it was oral traditions or so be it, but people are sharing ideas and writing them down for a long time. So it's very possible. But back to my point of like, growing up, it was just like nothing could be considered helpful, or I should say nothing was as helpful as the Bible. It's like you could find a book or a movie or a quote that was helpful, but you have to realize that it's never going to be as good as cracking your Bible open. That's where
There were so many. Oh man, I'm taking a quick glance to see if I can see this.
All the tens of books.
And all the tens.
The fives of books.
The fives of books. No, I don't see it.
I can't be joking. I don't even think I have a single book on my whole floor of my house.
There are a shit ton of books in there. Oh shit, I see it.
What is he picking up?
And it is going to be within the first few pages. It is one of the best quotes I've ever read in a book.
Everybody, he just picked up my personal diary. He's about to read inspired poems from Scott.
Hey, Scott, this for one here says Scott sucks.
How'd you know that I wrote that?
I don't know. I'm gonna be real embarrassed if I can't just fucking find the actual quote. So I talked about Kite Runner before. But this The Three Musketeers
I love their
by Alexandre Dumas. In this whole thing, he's talking to D'Artagnan at the beginning, and he's basically giving him this charge because D'Artagnan is going to go off to be a musketeer. But he basically says, he's telling him how to be a musketeer.
Cover yourself in chocolate.
He says, at court, if you ever go to court, which of course you're quite entitled to do, seeing who you are, be honest and above board with everybody. Always remember your rank and carry on the tradition of good behavior, which your family has been true to for the past 500 years. This you owe to yourself and to your nearest and dearest. Stand no nonsense from anyone but the king and the cardinal. Remember, nowadays it's only by personal courage that a man can get on in the world. If you see an opportunity, don't stop to think, but seize it, or you may lose it forever. If that fails, try something else. And I think that if that fails, try something else. That shifted my paradigm.
Yeah.
Like right there, because I was in the middle of like figuring out, I was working like part-time as a camp counselor and yada, yada, yada. And I was just like, I don't know where I'm going. Then I read that if that fails, try something else. And that informed how I approach jobs for like going forward. And now I've got a pretty solid one.
Yeah.
So,
and you felt like that was, I mean, for you at that moment, that was inspired word, and in that it gave you inspiration, right? I mean, it was like, it kind of shed light on
that. If that fails, try something else, I think has impacted my life more than any Bible verse.
Yeah. I mean, I can't think of any right off the top of the head, but
in speed of how it impacted me, in the sense of like, I read it and then applied it pretty immediately to the rest of my life. I think that's like it just shuttered it, not shattered me to a core, because it didn't shatter me in any way, but it was just it helped me get out of a funk pretty immediately. And then I just was able to take that and apply that to life in general. Just like, all right, life's for trying shit. And that's what he tells D'Artagnan. He's just like, get into fights. That's what this is about. That's what being a musketeer is about. It's about getting into fights, proving your worth. When you go to court, be at court, endure what you got to endure, have those conversations. He talks a little bit later about, just make sure you get into sword fights with people. That's kind of the thing, But he's just like, he goes on later to just be like, make mistakes. That's what you're supposed to do. So,
yeah, that's
fight at the least provocation in season and out, because now that dueling's illegal, the man who fights shows himself to be doubly brave. Yep. So basically says, get into fights, make mistakes, and listen to the cardinal and the king.
Yeah, that for me, I don't want to say I missed out on, but growing up, it always, I didn't give a lot of time to extra biblical texts. I didn't give it as much weight. I thought, oh, well, I have to be inspired by the Bible. Like that's what I need to be inspired by. So I would just, only read the Bible for the most part, or books about the Bible, like, little Christian pastor, whatever summary kind of theology books to get more understanding of the Bible. And I'm looking back and realizing like all these teachers that I had in school that were just trying to illuminate, beautiful works of literature that have inspiring texts and stories and characters. I was just like, I want to worry about Jesus. I was just so set on keeping Christ at the center of everything. And I think that's such a problem, is like, I don't know, this has almost
Scott,
nothing to do with IrRIZZistible Grace, but I don't care.
You were a project by some English teacher. You were
I know.
I can just get this kid.
Sure.
To just
and I was probably trying to work on them, like, if I can just get them to come to youth group with me just once.
If I can just get Miss Lebonsky.
If I can just get Mr. Gaines to come with me to youth group. Yeah, I do want him on my dodgeball team, but if he can come with me and see how cool I am when I play guitar, and then like see how good I am at praying and like leading my cell group, maybe he'll like.
I don't think anybody will. I don't think anybody will have a problem with Mr. Gaines coming to youth group.
No problem.
This
some
won't make a
35-year-old hanging out with a bunch of 14-year-olds in a weird emotional worship room. Oh Lord.
There won't be documentaries like this in like 20 years.
No, not at all. God. I was just so, it was an obsession. I feel like at times. Yeah, but that's because every person tells you that's the most important thing you can do. And so you do it. But I think now, as an adult and, kind of living on my own path now, it's like, you realize how much humans are all just trying to describe their experience. And some people, I think it's so important to find poetry and find words that resonate with you. Cause it, like you were mentioning, it can, it might not be the most mind-blowing thing in the world, but might let you think about something in a different way, or it might make you go, you know what? Like, I'm not alone in this. Like, other people have had that same feeling or thought, and that's okay, and it's not everything has to be a divine revelation. It can just be a simple like change of perspective on something. So just the Bible and just everybody pushing it. I don't know, I feel like we need to be pushing more books. Go to your local library. Get a library card. Go.
Ban all the books. Don't ban them.
Don't ban them.
Do the opposite.
Yeah. So back to IrRIZZistible Grace. So, I guess the question of it's just also describing like God's love is all
never
powerful
fails.
and never fails.
Gives up.
Never gives up. It never
runs out on me.
Yeah, I guess really to put a bow on the rest of this Irresistible Grace, how do you feel it ties in with the what we talked about before so far as with Tulip? Do you feel like this one fits in place? Does it bring any questions to you? Like when you were a Christian and you were reading this, did you find problems with it?
I don't think I ever found a problem with Irresistible Grace as soon as I was, a once saved, always saved kind of gal.
Nice.
I think Irresistible Grace is maybe of the three middle ones, I think it's the easiest to swallow. Because I think you can justify it in another way. You can be like, all right, well, like if everybody's got a choice, then if you choose to open yourself up, then he's going to be as irresistible as possible. Like he's going to appear to be irresistible to you. You can kind of juggle around it that way. Because you do have some like 3-point Calvinists out there in the Baptist church. And so for
not for
our
a
readers,
stool, though.
Yeah. For our readers, if you ever hear anybody say, 2-point, 3-point, 4-point, 1 point's not even really necessary. Usually they say that they are believing certain points of what we've been talking about. So a 3-point Calvinist commonly believes in total depravity, irresistible grace, and perseverance of the saints. They leave out unconditional election and limited atonement. But I think like with irresistible grace, just like with some of these others, you start getting into it. So like, okay, well, why would God need his grace to be irresistible?
Yeah.
Like, why would that be a thing? Sure,
what
you
would
could
it say
argue
if it was the opposite? That's an interesting question of like, because this is what Irresistible Grace is trying to combat the thought that God beckons people and people deny him, which like, how does that
resistible grace?
God? Yeah. What would resistible grace do to your faith? I guess. I mean, that's kind of what I'm curious about. Like, did that seem like people should be able to resist God? Like, who cares?
Yeah. Well, I think that's the concept. Like, and I think what Tulip is trying to get at is something that's a little bit uncomfortable for a lot of Christians. Is that if Tulip stands on the rock of, if a God exists, it doesn't matter what you think he's like.
Yeah.
If a God exists and demands worship, it doesn't really matter what you think he's like.
That's a good point. It, Tulip and Calvinism really molded the idea of God into a more just, he has certain standards and like holiness about him that just don't make sense to the point where it's almost, it's not right. Like it seemed like these are such grand rules, cosmic rules of holiness and whatever that's how some people describe it as like, well, God can choose because he's holy and every decision he makes is perfect, So
I think like, I'll say this for the Calvinists. They didn't, or maybe they did. I think you would find, I don't know. It's a little bit, I'm kind of talking myself out of it as I'm beginning to talk about it. But
actually, never mind. I resist this.
I think I would say non-Calvinists make God in their own image a lot more than Calvinists do. Just because, just because with Tulip everything's carved out.
Mm-hmm. You have the scapegoat of just like, well, God's God, and it makes sense to God.
Yeah. God's God. This is what he's like. This is what it is in Scripture. Whereas people who are not Calvinists are like, well, I've got a personal relationship with him, yada yada. And whereas Tulip doesn't necessarily talk about the personal relationship all that much. No, we're just talking about the doctrine of grace. But somebody who's a Calvinist truly understand. I think they really understand the portion of servant master in the Christianity relationship a lot.
Yes.
A lot more.
I mean, truly slaves to Christ, like as Paul said. Like in all seriousness, it's like Tulip and Calvinism is, for people who are like, I want to submit to God. Like he is.
It's the hard drug of Christianity.
Yeah, it is.
Like
the 50
that's what
Shades
Calvinism
of Christianity.
Yeah.
Ass up, baby girl.
The Methodists, the Anglicans, they're just some nice weed. Calvinism is like hard cocaine. Like it is like.
Let's write a book.
Let's write a book.
I gotta go wash my car.
Let's start a podcast.
Let's do a podcast. Let's go work out.
Let's go to a brewery.
Oh man, I was thinking though, like, I think
it's really interesting that the Puritans drowned women who didn't have sex with their husbands.
You're just not getting it, man. Yeah, like
they really understood it. Jonathan,
I've been up for 38 hours thinking about this. You don't understand.
I drink coffee and beer.
My heart stopped and then restarted 5 times this morning.
And I smoke cigars because somehow that's better than cigarettes.
Was my doctor in the room right now? No, doc, it's not cigarettes. I just cigars. Oh, okay, you're fine.
Okay, you're fine.
Get out of my office. You're healthy.
Man,
cigars, you're fine. Slap you in the ass. I can tell.
I can tell.
That's a cigar butt.
Patting that patty cake right there.
Hey, let me play real quick. Patty cake.
Patty cake.
God. I want to just give you an award for somehow having one of the most heartwarming and inspiring segments on this podcast, and then on a dime go to a doctor playing bongos on my ass. Just, you don't get that anywhere else but Evan Johnson. So I thank you.
I'd like to thank my mommy.
The 5 to 7 listeners each week, tell us what you think, please.
Please.
Why are you here?
Why?
What do you want from us?
We're happy that we can provide what we can to you.
Whatever the hell this is, we appreciate you.
Any last thoughts on Irresistible Grace?
The only other thing I was thinking about is how much I love when my doctor. No.
I love my doctor plays hot cross buns on my hot cross buns.
God damn. There's always going to be something stupid. No, I was thinking about how this might play into the idea that Christians just think everybody wants to be a Christian. Like, why wouldn't you want to be a Christian? Like, well, if God's calling you, then it's impossible for you to say no, And I think this specific letter of Tulip has played into this idea that, like God's called everybody.
Everybody wants to be a Christian.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. It just seems strange that God would be completely irresistible, people. So of course you should just come to church with me because it's irresistible. And it's hard to understand like when God calls people. That was always a question of mine. Is like, why would He wait? That's what I was trying to scratch it earlier. Is like, there's some people who don't become Christians till later in life, or some people that are like, back and forth before they finally become a Christian. I always find that interesting. That like, yeah,
hey, there's our timing, and there's God's timing.
God, but. I just felt weird that like there'd be so many 8-year-olds at my church.
Yeah. Sometimes God calls, but He always calls right on time.
Sometimes God calls and He'll always leave a voicemail.
He'll always leave a voicemail.
You know what that voicemail is?
Yeah, sometimes He calls.
The New Testament.
Sometimes He calls. He did call the wrong number.
But He eventually
found
it was
the right answer for you.
God on His giant rotary phone. He picked up the dial.
Click, 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 click.
Click, click, click. Oh, it's a 9. Hang on. Click, 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 click. God, I hate us. I hate us so much.
Operator, get me a soul to save.
Scott have an operator.
Yes.
He doesn't know how to work a phone.
That's just an angel plugging wires. Hang on.
Directing your call.
I love this steampunk Neil Gaiman universe we've created right now.
God's office.
Of just heaven.
One moment.
Thank you for calling 1-800-GOD. How can I help you?
It's not enough numbers, but we made it work.
Yep. The rest of the numbers are silent.
They're in Braille.
No.
The rest are silent for our deaf community.
You know, the deaf people who dial phones. That community.
No. Oh, man.
Braille's for blind people.
What are your final thoughts on what are we on? The I. I can't remember what letter we're on.
We're on the I. I think Irresistible Grace is the easiest pill to swallow. Out of those three, the U, the L, and the I think if I were to rank it, it would probably be, and this is probably why there are so many people who, it wouldn't be that far from everybody else, but I think Total Depravity is the easiest to kind of stomach. Perseverance of the Saints and I think Irresistible Grace are probably tied for second place there. Because I think it's very easy to look around the world and be like, oh, something's wrong. And then Irresistible Grace and Perseverance are not far off because they're very nice. And Unconditional Election and Limited Atonement are just hard sells. Yeah. But Perseverance of the Saints, I will say, like, it has some pitfalls, so I'm excited to talk about that next week. Well, you're going to have to listen next week. We're not going to talk about it right now.
Hold on to your butts, everybody, for next week's episode.
Yeah, don't Google it.
Evan, any big Easter plans before we end the episode? That's coming up this week.
Yeah. Hanging out with the wife's family.
Nice.
Easter was never a big thing. It started being a big thing later, but it was never a big thing in our family.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
What am I going to do? Go to church extra early?
Yes, absolutely. That's the fun part. You get to go in early.
Yeah. My dad would have screamed at the idea.
We would have been the family going to get the donuts for everybody else. That was our...
We've talked about how you and I just would not have gotten along if
we would have been the family to get donuts for the workers that were getting there early so they can put out donuts for the other people, for your family that are coming 40 minutes late to service.
Yep.
That would have been my family.
And my mom is swearing at me and my brother while we were getting in.
Well, that's... Easter's coming up.
You don't need a Game Boy while you're at church, Evan.
Oh, man. Yeah, no big Easter plans over here. Just going to be chilling, trying to swat away all the Lutherans that are trying to invite us to church up here. I've gotten so many Easter flyers from churches around here. I don't know if you've gotten any.
No.
But we have a pile of them.
I have a big, I just have a running video of an abortion on our front lawn, and that keeps people away.
Just and like an old-timey one.
And also like an ISIS sign-up sheet as well.
Followed, and there's like a Billy Graham beheading video, too. It's in the front lawn.
And a Trump 2024 thing out the front lawn. So people just don't know what to do with this. So they just stay away.
Not even the FedEx guy is going to be like, I'm skipping this one. I'm just going to throw this away.
I'll leave it here at the end of the driveway. I don't want to get closer. Thank you, everybody, for joining and listening. We really appreciate it. Please share. Please let everybody who you think would find this funny.
Please, God, help us.
Please, we're drowning. Without further ado, my name is Evan.
I'm Scott.
And don't forget that God's grace just is so it tricks you.